For the following, I will show you how to remove your heater AC control unit in a 2008 Honda Pilot, though this is most likely applicable to similar setups in a 2005 through 2008 Honda Pilot. We'll be removing the heater AC control unit because there are buttons shown here that aren't really depicted as I'm doing this in hindsight or after the fact. These LED bulbs were blown, so these light switches, the switches at night, were not illuminating, and so you cannot see this. If you're having a similar problem, it would really apply to any of these buttons here along the dash if they are not illuminating at nighttime for you to see them. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the heater AC control unit. We're going to pop out the LED bulbs. We're going to replace the bulbs. I'll walk you through step by step on how to remove the unit, replace the bulbs, and then put it back together. Instruments that I use for this job include a plastic spatula type knife, a pair of needle nose pliers, a small pair of wire cutters, a small tool with interchangeable smaller heads that had a small flat head that I found useful during the job, a small pick-like tool, very narrow, fine, pointed tip, number 1 screwdriver, number 2 screwdriver, a small flathead, and a little larger flathead. They weren't totally essential. In hindsight, after this job was completed as I filmed this, I could have likely done this job without this tool and without this tool. So these are really the essential tools that you'll need: plastic spatula knife, the needle nose pliers, wire cutters, small pick-like instrument 1 and 2, Phillips head, and a small flathead screwdriver. The first step in accessing the heater AC control unit is to begin with a plastic type instrument. It'll decrease your chances of scratching your dash trim. And then if it's quite narrow, what you'll need is to insert it in the lip in between this outer plastic trim and this black trim that surrounds your dash unit. So once you catch a little lip like this, simultaneously using one hand to push out and holding back here under this lip as you pry forward and then pull out, you'll be able to unsnap it from the housing. Here are the 3 retention clips, one at the top, one midway, and there's a final one inside here down at the bottom. So in essence, it's a bit of an upward pull, and then from the bottom you're going to be prying it up and out in order to access it. The other side I already have removed, but this reveals the 4 Phillips head screws you will next need to remove in order to take off the trim panel that will allow you access to the housing. This trim bezel simply can be placed to the side, and you do not need to unhook the 3 plugs going to the seat heaters, and the cigarette lighter adapter that's underneath there. Those can simply stay connected, as you just need to move this unit out slightly. The next step in order to remove the heater AC control unit is there is a Phillips head screw, one on this side and one on the opposing side here. Lighting's not the best, but simply on the opposite side. You'll remove both of those 2 screws. You will then come across 2 plugs in the back, one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side. There's a little tab located near the center of the plug that you can squeeze and then wiggle those plugs out. Located to each side of the unit, there's a little white tab that holds the unit into this metal bracket that's located on the side. If you have some strength, you can simply pry one of the brackets back and it'll slide out. If not, there are 4 Phillips head screws located in these locations where my fingertip is at on each side that you don't need to take out all the way. You can simply loosen those around your that goes around your audio unit. So once you loosen that bracket, then you will more easily be able to pull this bracket off of your unit, your heater control unit that you'd like to remove. Here is the heater AC control housing. In order to disassemble this to access the bulbs, you will need a size 1 or size 2 Phillips head screwdriver, in addition to a small flathead screwdriver. There are 4 Phillips head screws located at the corner of the unit on the back that you will need to remove the Phillips head screws
from first. Once these screws are
removed, you then take the small Phillips head screwdriver, and underneath these gray tabs, starting from the back side, simply catch a little lip and then pop it up. You don't need to pry it much further than that. You can use your thumb to then stabilize the housing as you move over to the other one, and then push it forward. Once it's beyond this point, it will stay. Nothing else needs to be done. You can flip it over to the other side and repeat, stabilizing with your thumb, and then popping the housing off. Here, the LED bulbs are not visible yet at this point. This circuit board is simply wiggled loose. You don't need to undo any of these plugs in order to access these. You can simply rotate it over and lay it to the side. And here, on the back side of the circuit board, are the 6 round housings. It's where the LED bulbs are located. A simple search on Amazon for light bulbs or light bulb kit, which contains 6 of the LED bulbs for the heater AC climate control with the appropriate year for your vehicle, will yield you the results. In order to remove the housings which hold the LED bulbs, a small flathead screwdriver can be inserted into the center of the plastic housing and rotated. If this doesn't work, you can use a set of needle nose pliers, which will be able to rotate the gray housing in order to remove it. You want to be careful not to squeeze it too hard. Pull it out. This one has already been replaced, but I will walk you through how to remove the bulb and appropriately trim and bend the wires inside of the housing. Here is a zoomed in view of the plastic housing which holds the LED bulb. Move the box. I'm going to try to focus this better. So those 2 circular center channels are where the wires will extend down through the base of the housing. As you can see, as I rotate it here, the wire then rotates up, bends around to the other side of the housing, takes a loop, comes back around through the channel. Once it goes through that channel, it's bent over once again and then trimmed at the end, as you see there. So in order to remove the bulb, you will need to do the reverse, starting at this end and uncurling it, and then unwrapping it around from there, and then bending it out straight in order to remove the LED bulb. A tool that I have found effective to remove the wire is this small orange handled pick, but any instrument or tool which is narrow that will allow you to push the wire through until you have a little bit of it bent up and out from this housing will allow you to straighten it out like such and then unbend it from around to the center of the housing. You'll need to repeat this for the other lead. And a toothpick may work as well, though a metallic instrument will be much stronger to pull against these wires. So as you can see, I have both of the wires pulled out. And once they're both pulled out far enough, you can simply straighten them and then hold the LED bulb and simply pull it out from the housing. Installation of the new bulb will be in the reverse order as just depicted. Here I have the new bulb with its leads inserted in through the 2 cylindrical holes in the center of the housing and then pushed through. And then once that is accomplished, you could simply bend over the leads into their recessed channels on either side. Then wrap them around over the top and then into the side channel coming back down. I wouldn't cut these before you insert them through, even though you're going to have some excess wire, as you can see here. I think it's more effective to bend the wire around the housing first, and then once you get it to the base, simply trim the wire once you know. Simple wire cutters are all you need for that. Once you know you have enough, simply trim it so the end of that wire will fall into the channel at the base. And again, this instrument that's similar to a pick works well. If you still have a little too much, simply trim off a little bit more. Then use a narrow tool to push that wire down into the channel. Like such. You also want to make sure that the wire is pushed down flat in this region. A fingernail or the same instrument or tool is all you really need to do that. You want to make sure both of the LED wired leads are each and individually coming through one of the little channels. Though it may be obvious, you would otherwise be causing a short in the bulb, and this could be a potential source of a problem once you put everything back together, as it will cause a short, not allowing the bulb to work properly. Here I have all of the LED bulbs replaced into each of these 6 housings and inserted back into the board and tightened into place utilizing a small flathead screwdriver. Again, I would recommend replacing all 6 of these bulbs, even though you may only have 1 or 2 of the bulbs out, as is its more effective use of your time to replace all of them versus taking this apart potentially months later down the road should another bulb go. Then rotate the circuit board back down in place to assemble it. Take the gray housing that was previously removed, snapping the 4 tabs back in place, and then putting in the 4 Phillips head screws that were previously removed on the back of the housing. Here I would like to demonstrate return of the heater AC control unit back to its position. I have not yet placed the screws to retain it back in the housing right here. That's solely because I want to test this before I put everything back together to make sure that all of the LED bulbs are working properly. So I'll turn off the overhead lights here, turn on the keys, and as you can see, when I turn on the parking lights, these were the lights that were initially not working, are lit up, as well as those, and they went on the other side, indicating that, and also around the temperature bezel here. And this is indicating that all of the 6 LED bulbs that we have replaced are working properly. Here I'm just showing the unit and the 4 main screws mounted back into place. I put the unit back in. I plugged in the passenger side, plugged to the unit first. Then I mounted the 2 Phillips head screws for the heater AC control unit back to the bracket. Don't forget to tighten these screws if that's what you ended up loosening in order to get it in. Then I ended up plugging in the electrical connection for the driver's side prior to mounting these 4 screws. I then put in the 4 mounting screws, as you can see here, tighten them into place. Hand tight's all you really need. These 4 screws. One more here. Next, we'll then pop the trim bezel back into place. Once the trim bezel is back into place, you place the 4 Phillips head screws into these 4 holes in order to reattach it properly. If you're having some difficulty getting this trim in, I noticed that a little upward pressure way back to the depths of the trim panel underneath the storage area helped get it in. The final step in the assembly is to replace the side trim pieces. These can prove a little challenging in replacing them, but we found the easiest way is to set the bottom portion of the trim piece first, place that all the way down, pushing down slightly, and then simply pressing in the upper portion of the trim. So again, begin low, seat that, work your way up towards the top, push it right in, and it'll slide right in.